Imagine paying $15 for a single block of cheese or $1.2 million for a basic three-bedroom house. This isn't a joke. This is real life in New Zealand in 2024. A place that looks like paradise in photos has become a country where normal people can't afford to live anymore. Let me show you what a normal day looks like here. At the supermarket, a basic shopping trip for bread, milk, and eggs now costs more than $50. That's twice what you'd pay in Australia. Our houses are now so expensive that a normal worker would need to save every dollar they earn for 15 years just to buy an average home. This isn't just made-up numbers. These are real facts that are forcing record numbers of New Zealanders to leave their home country. In the last year alone, more than 47,000 Kiwis packed their bags and left New Zealand for good. That's enough people to fill a small city. They're not leaving because they want to. They're leaving because they have to. When teachers, nurses, and even doctors say they can't afford to live here anymore, you know something has gone very wrong. In this video, I'll show you exactly why living in New Zealand has become so hard for normal people. We'll look at the real numbers behind our housing crisis, why our food costs more than in New York, and why even people with good jobs are struggling to make it work. If you've ever wondered what's really happening in this corner of the world, this is the truth you need to hear. Let's start with a shocking number. The average house in New Zealand now costs $905,000. Think about that for a minute. For a normal Kiwi family earning $89,000 a year, buying a house has become nothing but a distant dream. Back in 1980, you could buy a house for about 3 times your yearly pay. Today, you need at least 10 times your yearly income, and in cities like Auckland, it's even worse. But what if you just want to rent? Well, that's another painful story. The average rent in Auckland has hit $650 per week. That's $2,600 every month just to keep a roof over your head. In Wellington, our capital city, renters are paying $580 per week for a basic 3-bedroom house. To make this real for you, if you earn the average wage, more than half of your take-home pay goes straight to your landlord. The housing shortage has made everything worse. Right now, New Zealand is short of 40,000 homes. This means many families are stuck living in garages, cramped motels, or sharing houses with multiple families. In fact, 4,000 Kiwi families are currently living in emergency housing. That's the highest number we've ever seen. Remember when young couples could save up for their first home? Those days are gone. Banks now want a 20% deposit before they'll even talk to you. For an average house, that means saving $181,000 just for the deposit. Even with 2 people working full-time jobs, saving this much money takes years, especially when you're paying high rent at the same time. Foreign buyers played a big part in this mess too. Before the government banned them in 2018, overseas investors bought up thousands of homes, driving prices up even further. Even though they can't buy anymore, the damage is done. House prices doubled in just 7 years from 2015 to 2022, while wages only went up by 14%. Here's what this means for real people. Sarah and Tom, both teachers in Hamilton, have been saving for 5 years. They live in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, barely eat out, and haven't had a holiday in years. Even with all this saving, they're still $50,000 short of a deposit. Their story isn't unique. It's becoming the norm for young Kiwis. The government tried to help by building more homes through their Kiwi Build program. The goal was 100,000 new homes in 10 years. But after 4 years, they've only built 1,366 houses. That's not even close to what we need. For many Kiwis, the housing crisis has killed the dream of ever owning their own home. People in their 30s and 40s are still renting, still sharing houses with roommates, and still watching their savings get eaten up by rising rents. This isn't just about houses. It's about losing hope in the Kiwi dream of having a place to call your own. After seeing how impossible housing has become, there's another big problem making life hard in New Zealand: the cost of just staying alive. Recent numbers from Stats NZ show our food prices have gone up faster than anywhere else in the Western world. In just the last year, prices jumped 12.5%, the biggest rise since 1987. Let me take you through a normal shopping trip here. A block of cheese now costs $15.50. That's 3 hours of work on minimum wage just for cheese. A basic basket of groceries, milk, bread, eggs, some meat, fruits, and vegetables, now costs $280 a week for a family of 4. That's $1,120 every month just for basic food. 5 years ago, this same basket cost $190. But it's not just food making life hard. Power bills now average $250 a month, up from $180 just 2 years ago. In winter, when homes need heating, many families pay over $400 monthly. Water bills add another $100, internet costs $90, and a basic phone plan is $40 per person. Add it all up, and a normal family spends about $500 just on basic bills each month. Getting around keeps getting more expensive too. Gas prices hit $3.15 per liter in most cities, the highest ever. Taking the bus isn't much better. A monthly pass in Auckland costs $215, more expensive than cities like Melbourne or Toronto. Many people are now walking long distances because they can't afford transport. Here's a real example that shows how bad things are. A family earning $95,000, the average wage, takes home about $6,200 after tax each month. But $2,600 goes to rent, $1,120 to food, $500 to bills, $400 to transport, and $200 to basic health care. That leaves just $1,380 for everything else: savings, clothes, school costs, and any emergencies. Compare this to Australia, where the same basket of groceries costs 30% less, wages are 25% higher, and rent takes up less of people's pay. It's no wonder more than 47,000 Kiwis left for Australia last year, the most since they started keeping records. A full-time worker in New Zealand makes about $89,000 a year, but after paying taxes, they only get $5,400 each month in their bank account. Just 5 years ago, this money was enough to live well. Now it barely covers the basics of staying alive. Something really unfair is happening with money in New Zealand. While prices of everything went up by 7.2% last year, people's pay only went up by 3%. In simple words, things are getting more expensive much faster than people are getting paid. Take normal jobs. A teacher starts at $60,000, a nurse makes $65,000, and even someone working with computers for 5 years makes $85,000. In Australia, these exact same jobs pay almost half more, which is why over 47,000 Kiwis moved there last year. The tax problem makes everything worse. If you make more than $70,000, the government takes 33%. Then there's another 15% tax on everything you buy. From someone making $89,000 a year, the government takes $22,000. That's like working for free from January to April just to pay taxes. Saving money? Most people can't anymore. A big bank survey found that 62% of Kiwis have less than $5,000 saved. When something breaks, like a car or washing machine, people have no choice but to use credit cards or borrow money. This is why the average Kiwi now owes $168 for every $100 they make, the highest ever. Here's what this means in real life. From that $5,400 monthly pay, $2,600 goes to rent, $1,120 to food, $500 to bills, and $400 to transport. This leaves about $780 for everything else, saving for a house, emergencies, clothes, and any fun in life. As one bank worker said last month, "I'm seeing normal, middle-class families running out of money days before their next pay comes in. This has never happened before." The strain on New Zealand's basic services is reaching a breaking point. Our hospitals are so full that 33,000 people are on waiting lists for surgeries. In Auckland's main hospital, people are waiting up to 13 hours in emergency rooms. Doctors recently shared that they're treating patients in hallways because there aren't enough beds. Public transport tells another sad story. Auckland's trains break down twice as often as they did in 2019. Bus services in Wellington canceled 250 trips last month alone because they can't find drivers. They're all leaving for better-paying jobs in Australia. The average Kiwi now spends 95 minutes getting to and from work, up from 65 minutes in 2018. Schools are struggling too. Public schools now ask parents for donations of $1,200 per year to cover basic costs. Kids need laptops for homework, but 1 in 5 families can't afford them. Teachers are leaving, 52% of Auckland schools couldn't find enough teachers this year. In small towns, some schools are combining classes because they can't find staff. The gap between cities and small towns is getting bigger. In places like Gore or Wanganui, people wait 6 weeks to see a doctor. Some towns have lost their only bank, forcing people to drive hours just to do basic banking. While Auckland gets new roads, small-town roads are full of potholes because councils can't afford repairs. Social services are breaking down too. The waiting list for state houses has hit 24,000 families, the highest ever. Food banks gave out 35% more food parcels last year than in 2022. Mental health services are so stretched that people wait 3 months for their first appointment. These high costs and broken services are pushing Kiwis away in record numbers. Fresh numbers from Stats NZ show 47,000 New Zealanders left for good in 2023, the biggest exit since World War II. Every single day, 130 Kiwis pack their bags and say goodbye to their homeland. Australia has become the escape route. They took in 41,000 of these Kiwis last year. It's easy to see why nurses who make $65,000 here can earn $95,000 in Sydney. Teachers jump from $60,000 to $85,000. Houses are cheaper, food costs less, and bills don't eat up your whole pay. The people leaving aren't just any Kiwis. There are doctors, teachers, builders, and IT workers. Hamilton Hospital lost 15 nurses in 1 month to Australia. Auckland's biggest high school lost 8 teachers to Queensland last term. These skilled workers are running away from a country that can't pay them enough to live properly. Small towns are dying slowly. Whangarei lost its only hospital specialist. Timaru's Main Street has 12 empty shops because businesses can't find workers. Local sports teams are folding because young people have moved away. As one small town mayor said last month, "We're losing the young people who should be our future." Every person leaving has a story. Like Sarah, a nurse with 10 years experience, I cried making the decision to leave. But my Auckland rent takes 60% of my pay. In Melbourne, it's 35%. I can finally save money there. The government has started taking steps to fix these problems, but experts say it's not enough. Their Kiwi Build program promised 100,000 new homes, but only built 1,366 in 4 years. The recent foreign buyer ban stopped overseas investors from buying houses, but prices are still too high for most Kiwis. Some solutions are starting to appear. The Reserve Bank projects housing prices will drop 10% over the next 2 years. New laws now force councils to allow more apartments and townhouses, which could create 105,000 new homes in the next decade. Big changes in tax rules might help too. From 2024, landlords can't claim tax benefits on rental properties anymore. Housing experts predict this could bring house prices down by 15%. The government's also planning to cut GST on fresh food, which could lower food costs by 10 to 12%. But economists warn these fixes are just band-aids. Real change needs bigger steps. Building 30,000 new homes every year, raising minimum wage $25 per hour, and bringing in rent controls like they have in Australia. As one housing expert put it, we need to rebuild New Zealand's dream of affordable living, or we'll keep losing our people. Even if all these changes happen, experts say it'll take 5 to 7 years before living in New Zealand becomes affordable again. For many Kiwis, that might be too long to wait. New Zealand's story today isn't just about pretty landscapes anymore. It's about survival. A house costing $905,000, weekly rent of $650, $15 for cheese, and basic bills eating up most people's pay. This is the real New Zealand of 2024. With 47,000 Kiwis leaving last year alone, the message is clear. Paradise comes with a price many can't afford anymore. Changes are coming, but they're moving too slowly. While the government talks about solutions, another family struggles to pay rent, another nurse leaves for Australia, and another small town loses its young people. For a country that once promised the Kiwi dream of a good life for honest work, we face a simple choice: make big changes now, or watch more Kiwis forced to find their dreams somewhere else. The numbers don't lie, and we're not just losing people, we're losing the heart of who we are.